check, 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 chop it down, check, 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 chop it down, chop it down, chop it down, you gon' chop it down, chop it down, chop it down, chop it down, you gon' chop it down.
I just appreciate everybody
Damn,
watching.
set,
Man.
Watch him throw the ball, we gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through fourth and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive, this is Trap or Dive.
What's going on, y'all? This is Hen Dog Mo, Henny Mo, Coach Mo, Molly Mo, all that good stuff, man. Your host of the Trap or Die podcast, and we have a special film session this time. It's a two-parter with the good man Logan Paulsen, man. For those who don't know, Logan Paulsen is the former Washington Redskin, a multi-year NFL veteran, been all around the league for a number of teams, man, and did some great things in the league as a serviceable tight end. And made the way, I think, close to 10 years in the NFL, I believe. With that being said, listen up. We did a film session, man. Brian Robinson and Phidarian Mathis, two good players, both from Alabama. Ironically, I didn't even realize in the moment that we were recording that we did both the Alabama players. But, you know, it is what it is, man. It was some great stuff, and I think it's very insightful. I think one of the things when you talk about these type of people in Logan and the lane that he's in, you don't always get to see or visualize what he's saying, but you hear it and it flows right, so it makes sense. And I think this is a great opportunity for those who listen to him on podcasts or the radio, but don't necessarily see the visualization of what he's saying and understanding of what it means to have that opportunity. And me and Logan was able to chop it up for close to an hour and kind of break down some film on both these players, both highlighting their strengths and weaknesses in both the run game and the pass game, and things like that. So with that being said, first up of the two-part series, we have Brian Robinson. And before we get to it, always remember to like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And if you are listening on any podcast platform, understand that we need you. Make sure you get that rating and review done if you decide to listen to this instead of watch it, which I advise you watch it. But yeah, with that being said, let's go ahead and get to it. First up, Brian Robinson. Stay tuned for Phidarian Mathis down the line. Peace. All right, so next up is Brian Robinson, third round pick for the Commanders. Logan, again, same thing with Brian. Where do you think he is for the Commanders? What type of back do you think he is? And what type of runner do you think he best fits? Like, is he that inside zone, mid zone, outside gap guy? Like, how do you think he fits in this offense?
Yeah, I think he's a guy who's like a pure runner. I like this tape a lot. I like this fit here for Washington quite a bit. I think he suits what Washington wants to be in terms of an inside zone runner where they are not always targeted super accurately. They're always kind of pushing the point of the run. So you get a lot of trash. He's really good at managing trash. And what I mean by that, he's really good with his footwork in terms of forcing arm tackles, and he's got enough strength to run through them. So everyone thinks of him as kind of like this bowling ball downhill guy. He has that element to his game 100%, but he's also got good lateral short area quickness that allows him to kind of put himself in good positions to break arm tackles. So I think, like even here, like you just see like that little jump cut. And again, the powerful finish to the run, like this is to me, this is a beautiful clip of who he is, right? Little like the jump cut right here, back to the backside, B gap, runs this guy over, but it's not a clean hit by that guy because of how he's running. That's what you get from him. A guy who can navigate trash, finish runs, and sets up blocks well. This is a great clip. I'm sorry to cut you off, but
No, you good.
So if you rewind to the beginning, like this whole defense that Ole Miss is running is designed to get the ball back to number 27, right? So like everyone's going to play the front side gap here. And what I mean is the front side being the left side of the formation. So you see the 5 technique playing the left shoulder of the guard, the linebacker playing the left shoulder of the center, the nose playing the left shoulder of the backside guard, and then they insert the receiver here to block this linebacker who's going to play the left side shoulder of the receiver. So Robinson does a great job of reading it one gap at a time. All the gaps are closed back to the open gap, which is where this safety is. And then he does a good job of bringing his own blocker, right? BYOB, right? And he breaks that tackle and then has a nice finish here. And so I think like you see his vision, you see his cut ability, you see his understanding of where the run should go. And that's all stuff that makes running backs really effective in the NFL.
You know what I love? There's this one moment right here, and he actually did it in the first clip too. You'll see in this instance, his right elbow on that tackler, he still uses it to kind of separate himself from that defender and free himself. Like at the very end, you saw that elbow extend to keep him upright, moving forward. I felt like, I mean, it's more clips, but I love how he uses his free arm. I love how he uses that to keep his balance and stay forward. It's a good trait to have from any running back, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like the contact balance, it's something that gets thrown around a lot, but like the kind of natural ability to like dip your shoulder, kind of create some space from the tackler's torso and their arms so they can't wrap you up. He just has a really good natural feel for that.
Absolutely. Same thing. That shoulder part, rolling the shoulder.
Yeah, and again, to me, the vision is something that sticks out to me here, right? Like he doesn't like, so he sets this up, right? And this is really cool because this is something that like where Gibson kind of struggles a little bit. So like you watch how like when he gets the handoff, how his shoulders are facing downhill. They're not turning one way or the other. It forces all the linebackers to fit on the double team. So like 44-0, step up to the double teams and allows those guys to secure those blocks. He even presses a little bit farther to get 7 to dive inside. And then at the last minute, like right when his toes are at the line of scrimmage, he's able to cut with his shoulders square and find the hole and then run downhill with his shoulders. Like if you see that, it's pretty spectacular. So that's what he brings. He understands how to set up runs, which elevates the offensive line. Oh, this is a sweet play. Yeah.
Yep. So he shows that ability, and you got it after this, but the ability to win the corner. But yes, you got the floor on this one.
No, and I'm just gonna say the same thing. Like he has enough speed to get the edge, but what I love about it is like his foot quickness, like on this corner cat here, this corner pressure off the right side of the screen. It's not a big move, but it's enough to make a guy miss and then get you 5 more yards, as opposed to getting hit in the thigh board there, falling down on your face for a loss of 1. You know, and that shows up consistently for him.
Absolutely. Here we go.
Again, yeah, like love that.
Absolutely.
Love
it. Which one is this? Okay. This is the one he got hurt on for a second.
Yeah.
That's ugly.
Yeah, it's kind of awkward tackle.
So yeah, you're seeing, as you said, you mentioned inside zone, and you're seeing more. He has a. It's not like first of all, let me ask you: is it ever for an offense? It's not ever always one scheme. Like it's not always a team that runs a zone scheme type of run style, or even just a power type of run style. It's a variety. So it's not like he's a different breed, or am I wrong? There are some offenses out there like that.
Oh yeah. So back in the day, like 10 years ago, they used to have like, we're an outside zone team, right? But we would sprinkle in some gap scheme or some inside zone, right? Complement the outside zone. Now running games are getting so nuanced that every team kind of has to run everything. The thing about Washington is they run a ton of tight zone. They're almost kind of the other way. They run tight zone, gap scheme, not a lot of outside zone. And they felt like they didn't have enough people on the edge from a tight end standpoint who could block outside zone. So I think that's one of the reasons they kind of stayed away from it, right? So I think the thing is he's just a good runner. You know, he's a good runner that can run in both schemes. And I think that's important to keep in mind.
Now, the last part, and I love this one, man. Pass blocking. Now, before we get into the pass blocking, I do want to get your thoughts because he didn't have many. Well, let me take that back. Let me be more specific. When he was asked to catch the ball, I saw him mainly catching balls in the flats, or he'll run routes towards the flats, or he'll be aligned out wide towards the boundary, far alongside the field, and he'll run like a hitch or something. So there is a degree to where people say they're concerned or have questions about his hands, but it's not like he can't catch. It's just he was limited in his routes and what he could run. I'll hand the floor to you and see if you had any exposure with his hands and if you had opinions on that itself.
Yeah, I don't think he's bad at catching the football. I just don't think he hasn't shown it a lot. It's not something they asked him to do a ton at Alabama. Like you mentioned, kind of like those flat routes and the hitches on the outside, like those are more reflective of like kind of just average NFL or college running back usage in the pass game. He's not like super dynamic in that regard. So I think that's something that gives you pause. Is he like a one-trick pony? And I think if he had shown a better proclivity for catching the football out of the backfield, he probably would have get drafted a little bit higher, but it just didn't show up on tape. I don't think he fights the football. I think he's got nice natural hands for a back. So it'll be interesting to see if that's something you can kind of grow out of him a little bit more. But yeah, I think that's kind of my thought on that.
All right, so a couple pass blocking things, and I'll let this one go, and we can run it back. This was my favorite one. So yeah, here we go. And go ahead back to this one. So yeah, there you go. The floor's yours.
Yeah, so I think like pass blocking is really challenging because like you have to identify who you're going to, and a lot of backs can't even do that. So this is a good clip of showing he knows exactly where he's going in terms of protection, and then he's very clean. He understands the angle of the guy's shoulders. He sees the stunt coming. He's able to shuffle his feet and stay square, and then uncoil his hips on the player on contact, and that's something that's so freaking challenging. Having done that in different schemes as a tight end, like where you have to pass pro from the backfield, that's so tough to kind of pass this stunt off. You know what I mean? It's so hard.
Yeah.
But his footwork's great, his ID is great, and then his contact here is great, to kind of pop this guy up and preserve the integrity of the pocket.
Now, this is my second favorite one. 22 for the Mississippi State Bulldogs. He was giving the Alabama offensive line hell throughout the majority of this game. And for Brian Robinson in his situation to have that competitive toughness and physicality on this play stood out to me. And I'll just give this one to you in terms of what you saw throughout your film study. Now, again, obviously you see a guy that big. He's not supposed to lose that one, and he didn't in a sense, but he gave the quarterback extra time.
Right, and I don't think like this is a weird protection too, because like he is supposed to help. Usually when you run this kind of protection with the guard pulling to the front side or to the right side of the offensive formation here, you're supposed to help on the guard's outside shoulder here, right? Because like that's a really tough block. So you see him kind of line up the outside here, and then this guy loops outside of the slide, and the O-line doesn't push it back, the number or whatever this guy is. And so he is just kind of playing ball here and blocking a defensive tackle. And you see he can't run to the contact. He's kind of just got to wait and wear this. And that is tough. And so for him to kind of stand in there on a defensive lineman and get that done, I think is, again, kind of speaks to who he is as a player.
Yes. A couple more, 44 and number 4. Now, I do have a question on this, and I'll run it back. But I have a question on this one, Logan. So when we talk about cut blocks, I want to get your thoughts on that in general from a running back POV, because sometimes cut blocks are essential, especially if you know like the throwing lanes for a quarterback. Like you want that free man to go low. You don't want him to have that ability to jump and deflect the pass. But I want to get your thoughts on that and see where you are in terms of like where cut blocks can be beneficial versus like detrimental in a sense. But
so I think cut blocks are a good tool for a back, right? I don't think they should be used all the time, and I think you need to know what kind of rusher you're pass protecting against. And what I mean by that is like there are certain guys, certain linebackers who are excellent bull rushers, and they're going to come in from depth and not break stride and try to knock your face mask in. And those guys need to at times be slowed down, right? And one way to do that is to cut their thigh bores out and make them think a little bit more critically about how they're rushing. Brian Cushing is a great example of that. Brian Cushing would bully backs. And so I remember Kyle Shanahan was like, do not just wear this on the face. Like go cut him as hard as you can the first play, and then we'll maneuver around that. Like he'll hopefully slow down. You can pass protect in a more kind of traditional manner. Obviously, if the guy's like very elusive, a DB, a guy with great feet, linebackers with great feet, more rush kind of history, you definitely don't want to cut those guys. You definitely don't. You want to kind of stay up and play basketball with them. And I think it's just you knowing when and when not to use your tool is really important. And I think backs tend to overutilize the cut because like they think the guy's coming in to kill them, but they've got a little bit more awareness. The linebacker or the rusher does. So I think that's just the thing for young pass protectors. Like, it's a tool. It's not the end all be all to your pass protection philosophy.
Just a couple more examples, but a follow up to that. Do you think, because I feel like the importance of being able to play on all three downs obviously comes with the passing game and pass protection. I remember for some time, while Chris Thompson was an elite receiving weapon, he was also, or for a running back, I don't know, like in terms of his route runner or anything like that, but he was a really good receiver weapon for Washington. But in the same vein, he was a good pass protector. What do you think about Brian Robinson's ability to play all three downs? Not necessarily be a workhorse in that sense, but just have that option on third down where he can play the pass or the run without giving like a tail to the defense.
Yeah, so I think he's an excellent pass protector. I think that's something that he really excels at. So I think you feel really good about him in these pass blocking situations. And that's something that you can't say about Gibson necessarily. I think McKissick does a good job, and I think in a perfect world, he's the guy that's your third down back because of the receiving upside. But in a very specific situation, like this is guy you feel comfortable on the field because he knows who to block and he knows how to do it physically. So I think those things are super important. And obviously, like, you would feel comfortable again, like pass catching balls out of the backfield. I don't think that's going to be where he excels, but from just a protection standpoint, he's got a tremendous skill set for it.
Absolutely. Logan, it was great for you to spend some time with Trapper Dive, man. Just go over some film and shed some light on a couple of the draft picks. One of these days, Cole Turner will come to light. I have some questions, but in the short version of Cole Turner, what do you think of his ability? And I'll leave you the floor whether you want to talk about passing, blocking, route running, whatever. The floor is yours to let the people know where you're thinking about Cole Turner.
Yeah, so I'll just give you kind of my brief summary of Cole Turner. I think he's basically a wide receiver. Like in that Nevada offense, he basically played like big slot for them. They don't do a lot of lining up in line, and that's something that's going to take some adjustment to get done. I think it's going to, in guys that I've known who've kind of made the wide receiver to tight end conversion, it's taken 2 to 3 years. He has done some in line. He's not super great at it, but it might be quicker for him because he's done a little bit of it, more than a traditional wide receiver would. But I think that's going to be something that's tough. He's a little stiff in the hips, but I think he makes up for that because he's got a tremendous catch radius and dexterity when the ball's in the air. Like, he's 6'6", and his ability to kind of adjust his torso to the football and dive out and get that body control going, former basketball player, I think is an elite trait that allows him to be kind of a mismatch weapon kind of right out the gate. So I'd expect to see him doing that in training camp. I'd expect to see them doing that in the preseason. And I think he's probably going to make the 53 and be kind of your pass catching big wide receiver piece that they can move around the formation. So I think he's got some growing to do, no doubt. That's why he's in the 5th round as opposed to the 3rd or the 2nd round. But I do think there is some stuff there to be excited about if you're a Commanders fan, and he's got some ability that is pretty unique. So it's exciting. Again, a lot of growing to do, but a player that I think is going to, especially because of how he is as a person, seems like the right kind of kid in terms of his mentality and approach to the game. I think is going to be a contributor here sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. Logan, man, I appreciate you joining. It's been a pleasure, and best of luck moving forward, I guess, with your podcast as well. I know I'll be tapped in. It's on the Odyssey app. Once again, what's the name of it?
Take Command. And then obviously, if you guys want to follow my Instagram, Logan_Paulsen82. I post a lot of content there about breakdowns and things like that. I have a conversation with Ron that I'm going to post probably today. So all that stuff's cool, and appreciate the support, man. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
Down, set, hut, watch him throw the ball. We gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through 4th and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders, heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trapper Dive.